We are back in our open board agenda and we are going to skip ahead to. Thank you. 11.2, and we have everybody here is going to introduce themselves. Thank you.
Okay, next we'll start Philippa Campbell, Project and Program Coordinator.
Mike Strain, CapEx Projects Project Manager for Cataline Creek.
And I'm Ali Chappell, SLRD Project Manager.
Or but General Manager, Infrastructure, Environmental Services.
Don't touch my lips. Sorry, Omar. I'm going to use the names.
So Chair, are you happy for us to proceed?
Yeah, thank you.
All right, here again for another quarterly update. So we'll review the project status and progress made to date over the last quarter. At a high level, construction has progressed well through the winter months with the majority of clearing, grubbing and brush burning complete. Channel excavation berm construction now well underway. Next slide, please. The presentation will include an update on the schedule and progress over the last quarter, including a review of progress photos, and a look at the project next steps and an update on the project risks. Next slide. So here we can see an aerial view of the area with the components of the project and Lillooet Lake Estates parcel overlaid onto the image. The 6.5 kilometer FSR site shown on the left or west side in red. The main channel is shown in green, the training berms in blue, and the Forest Service Road Bridge in orange. The temporary bridge and detour is shown in yellow. So again, the sequence of the work is to start from the bottom of the channel and work upstream towards the top. Channel excavation started in January, and we're now approximately 70% complete excavation as of the end of June. Below the FSR, the water main channel and berms are complete, and the channel has been reactivated with water now flowing below the bridge. The permanent bridge has now been installed on the FSR, and the temporary bridge and detour have been removed. The 6.5K fill site has been completed, and the contractor has now been hauling to another fill site at the 5.5 kilometers mark on the FSR. This was another fill site, an improvement of the FSR that we've been working with the Ministry of Forests and their road contractor, Lizzie Bay. And final grading is actually just ongoing right now, scheduled to be completed for this week. Further details with respect to the construction schedule and potential impacts will be made available on the project website as they are available. Next slide, please. So over the past quarter, staff and the project team have been working to coordinate efforts on site, including construction, engineering, environmental and archaeological inspections and monitoring. Working with the engineers, contractor, and the Ministry of Forests to finalize plans for the temporary and permanent bridge designs and fill sites along the FSR. Working with the community and LLE to address issues as they arise through the construction period and communications to the community and to the public with respect to the construction. Work below the FSR is largely complete with the exception of planting and environmental restoration, which will happen in the fall. And the lower P5 access road, which has been deferred until further notice pending further direction. The contractor is now focused on completing the channel berms, water main and fill sites above the FSR. Next slide, please. Now, here's a few photos to show some of the progress made so far. So the photo here is an ortho mosaic, they call it, a bunch of aerial photos combined to make up one complete image. Made up from drone shots above the site on June 11th. Here we can see the entire project with the progress that's taken place in sequence of construction, which is from the lake upward. So a lake's on the left there. Shows excavation of the channel and berm construction complete below the FSR and work above the FSR in progress. You can also see the new Forest Service Road Bridge as well as the temporary detour bridge in place at the time this photo was taken. June was a good month for production, so and this photo is June 11th, so contractor's even further along than you see in this photo. Next slide, please. This photo was taken on June 29th, showing the channel which has been reactivated with water below the FSR. You'll notice on the top slope on the left side is higher than on the right side, and this is due to the berm that runs parallel to the creek on this side. Next slide, please. The image here on the left is a photo of the new FSR bridge installed at Cataline by the Ministry of Forests. And the image on the right is from June 29th, showing the temporary bridge in the process of being removed by that currently. Next slide, please. This photo is from May 4th, and it shows the complete FSR road fill at 6.5 K, where approximately 20,000 cubic meters of material was deposited from the channel excavation. Next slide, please. Photo on the left here shows the left upper berm on June 29th. The photo on the right shows the right upper berm alignment ready for construction on May 19th. There's approximately 40,000 cubic meters of material to place in the left upper berm and about 30,000 cubic meters of material to go into the right upper berm. The left upper berm is nearly complete and the right upper berm has just begun construction. Next slide, please. The two images here are of some of the LLE fill sites that are in progress. There's several fill sites within the LLE that were required due to the large volume of material excavated from the channel, and these are being done in sequence as the contractor progresses up the hill. Next slide, please. On the left here, we see the LLE Gate 4 common lot showing one of the two completed lakeside berms. And on the right is at the mouth of the channel where the contractor has installed silt curtains to prevent sediment from construction entering into the lake. Next slide. All right, the next steps for construction include working with the Ministry of Forests to finalize the road improvements at 5.5 K, as I mentioned before. That should be done this week. Completion of channel excavation at the temporary bridge location. Completion of the upper water main and upper channel excavations, berm construction, and LLE fill sites. Completion of brush removal and environmental restoration. And substantial completion and closeout of the construction phase. Aside from project status updates, we plan to return to the board for decisions related to the project as required moving forward. Next slide. Project risks. So we're continuing to monitor and manage the project risks. Our top risks listed here have not changed since the last update to the board. With respect to costs, we continue to project costs to land within the allocated budget. Regarding schedule, we're continuing to work with the contractor to ensure that progress milestones are achieved on time. We've not lost much time over the last quarter, and the contractor has been really productive, as I mentioned, over this time, and are generally on schedule. But there's always a risk that future delays will impact the schedule, or some items could push, such as weather sensitive items like planting. We've been working closely with our project partners to look out for potential impacts to the project. One potential impact we're monitoring closely is the risk of shutdown due to wildfire. While an exemption to a potential provincial fire shutdown order has been received from the Ministry of Forests, we're working through this risk with all of our project partners to ensure that all parties support the direction that we proceed in, i.e., we will continue to follow orders from the province as it relates to fire shutdown until we have support from all project partners. We're continuing to work closely with the community to ensure construction safety related risks are being communicated, especially as the community gets busier through the summer. And we're continuing to work with our contractor, qualified professionals and environmental monitors to manage environmental risks. The focus in March, April and May was centered around managing higher creek flows. But now we're in a drier and hotter time of year where the focus has shifted to the risk of thunder showers and wildfire. We're currently monitoring the Twin Two Creek fire that is burning less than 4 kilometers away from site. If the fire continues to approach or air quality worsens, we'll need to shut down operations until the situation improves. We're also looking ahead to the fall to be ready for the return of higher creek flows. That's it for the presentation. If there's any questions?
Now, I would just like to thank all of you for getting this to where it is, and it looks like there's a light at the end of the tunnel after many, many, many years. So good stuff. Excellent job.
Yeah, I'll second that. You know, we went for ages with nothing. Well, obviously things were happening, but it didn't appear to be. And now that, boy, it's just taken off. Yeah, well done.
Yeah, thanks. You, I think, mentioned planting briefly. Can you just remind me what level of vegetation is required or must be avoided, or like what the expectation of vegetation is there?
The plans show hydro seeding near the channel down at the closer to the lake as well as further up. The planting is fairly minimal there. It's mostly hydro seeding. There are some other plants. I'm not familiar off the top of my head with the type of plants, but it's mostly hydro seeding.
Yeah. Sorry, I had my mouth. Thank you very much for the presentation. This is a great update. We are encouraged to see that this project is on time and continues to work as well as can be, and it's great. We're excited to see the finished product. So go ahead.
Just a couple questions. I'm just curious, really curious about just the environmental mitigation that you're being required to do. So I'm wondering what is acceptable in terms of the offsite, like the compensation for the fish? What is being determined to be acceptable for us to do?
I mean,
Pass that off to.
yeah, I will start. Have been working with this. So we have the project engineers has developed an offsetting plan in response to the regulatory requirements the DFO has provided, which does, as the board is aware, include some offsetting measures off-site. So some of them included in the project at the project site that Mike's already spoken to. And there is a plan for some of those offsetting measures to happen off-site, which is that part is still in process.
Okay, that's not decided.
We've taken it a certain distance, but we're working with Lillooet Nation on that piece. So we don't have sort of full update or like further confirmation on that at this point. I believe it mentions in the report that that's another referral to Lillooet Nation because it is a separate project location. But we are definitely following up with that separately. And it is in progress.
Thank you. This is a massive project and I'm really impressed with what you guys are doing.
Go
I guess just one question, like the sidewalls of that channel look like they're rocked really nice and smooth and that. So now we're saying about planting and stuff. I hope we keep that to a minimum to keep that nice and smooth. So when the debris comes down, it's not taking it all out anyways. And there's nothing that'll grow over time to slow that flow down. So I'm sure you guys have thought all about that. But anyways, just, we don't need to make it look pretty other than the way it is right now, because that's functional.
Thank you for the presentation. That having the images there really shows what all the work that's been done. Just a really good presentation, not only for the board, but for the public also. Was there any issues with spring runoff this year? Causing any delays or anything like that?
I mentioned in my report that the first or the last quarter, not the one that we're currently in, but the one before, we did have some challenges with higher creek flows where we did bring in additional pumping capacity. We reinforced our silt curtain at the bottom of the lake to bolster up the environmental management of the site. I wouldn't say necessarily that we lost time, but we certainly had some challenges to get through there. Yeah, the production wasn't as high in that time of year, I would say, as it has been like in June.
Thank you.
Okay. Great presentation. We appreciate these reports. Do we need a motion to receive? Moved by Director Crompton, seconded by Director Rainbow. All in favor, any opposed, motion carries. Thank you. I'm gonna call another recess. Give us our 20-minute break. So it's 1:20, please come back at 1:40. Okay, let's call this meeting back to order. We are at number 5. It's okay, we've accomplished some stuff today. Okay, could I ask someone please move the consent agenda?
Yes.
As a block?
Also,
Moved by Director Stoner, second by Director Demare. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any items to be removed from the consent agenda?
I thought we just passed it, didn't we?
That was different agenda. We're in open. Okay, moving on. Report of the chair, and this is a round table. If anyone has anything new relevant to the work of the SLRD that they wish to share with the community in 5 minutes or less, now is your opportunity. Director Mack, go ahead.
Okay, I'll just make it very brief. I also want to thank staff for all the work they've done on the emergencies in Area C in the last month, 2 months, 3 months, whatever. It never ends. But no, I just want to say thank you because it's well deserved.
Thank you.
So,
Thank you.
there you go.
Director Crompton.
Relevant here, one of the projects that the RMW has been working a long time over the last 5 years probably is fuel management around the RMW. And one of the major corridors that we've been focused on is the highway. And so we've now done a tremendous amount of thinning of the evacuation routes in and out of Whistler, which I think will serve all of us well. And that work is done, and it hasn't been without controversy because it does mean that there's less trees buffering neighborhoods to that main corridor, but certainly we feel like we have created a much safer and usable evacuation route for Whistler, but I think for the full region. So look for it as you drive through Whistler. You can see that there is definitely less fuel along the side of the road.
Now you'll just have to listen to the complaints of the residents for noise.
Oh, don't
Highway
worry.
noise.
Fine, it's real.
Yeah, we are listening well.
We are listening. And to that end, I've also noticed new blacktop paving along the shoulders through Whistler and beyond, which I think is a great to the highway.
Actually, I
They
think
should try and put some of that on the highway. Just saying.
they can't, it doesn't truck noise.
Sorry, this is the Whistler update right now.
No.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
question, when are you gonna 4-lane the road through Whistler?
Okay, no more questions from
No,
public.
so not taking the question.
You're gonna go to area A and then District Lillooet.
the Voyant Alert program works. I just received a Voyant Alert that SLRD area or portion of it is under evacuation alert in the Bonanza Creek wildfire.
We are gonna have a little bit more update on that
Yeah.
later on in the episode, so.
It was really good because it shows a map and it actually pins my address exactly where it is
Wow,
on that map.
great.
So people haven't got Voyant Alert yet for the SLRD? Yeah.
Get it. Is that the app or the website? On the app,
Yeah, it's on the app and on email.
okay,
Yeah.
okay, great. And, Director Waffles.
So our CAO is gone, and I just wanted to say to staff that our acting CAO is joining the river right now. Hiring, but any contact would go through her. And yeah, and I just noticed that, well, Vivian and I noticed that coming over the Duffy, it's pretty dry up there. There's a lot of dead trees out there, and you know, that is a worry for sure, but.
Be extra careful with
Right, everything. Be careful with everything.
anything that can ignite in any
And
fashion.
it's not, you know, when they say that it's human caused, I mean, it's not just a cigarette going out the window, it could be a piece of glass or anything, like it's anything that's not lighting, so. You know, you really do have to be cognizant of the surroundings up there, and especially those trees, but anyways,
Thank you.
That human cause is pretty vague.
it really is, right?
Causes lots of guilt.
Mhm.
Just in Squamish, I guess we continue to work through the Heart and Hearth program and getting that up and off the ground with the province to address the encampments we're seeing in community and I guess adjacent to that work, last night, council meeting, council approved the lease for the supportive housing project on Government Road that is essentially what the Heart and Hearth is, the hearth part is bridging to, like the permanent facility on Government Road. So I think that was an important sort of marker along our journey and as we work to better serve the vulnerable populations in Squamish, and we know this is also there's a regional aspect to those services as well. So I wanted to share those two pieces.
Thanks. Okay.
I have a few UBCM items that might be of interest to the board. We had our quarterly board meeting last week, and just things that have come to this table very directly. So the proposal on regional district legislation modernization work. There has been a working group struck between UBCM staff and provincial staff to review all those recommendations, and they're working on trying to seek consensus with the province on priority areas of work. So which of those recommendations might actually be feasible to move forward. So they're filtering through that list that was provided. And then
Is Will Cole Hamilton still on the board?
no. But we do have representation from regional district and that's through the.
Yeah, but she's not on Chair Force One. So. you should have them.
Yeah. And then the other one that has come to this board table in various forms, including our last budget, there's UBCM is developing a mental health toolkit for elected officials. This has been a request from our members for a long time. That will include training opportunities and resources for peer-to-peer support, as well as extended family support programs. And so there'll be more information rolling out on that, but ongoing work on what that program is going to look like for elected officials going forward. So just wanted to provide those updates to the board and then.
Okay, do you need a motion to receive that, or can we just move on? A motion to receive. Okay, moved by Director Mayor, second by Director Rainbow, all in favor, any opposed, motion carries. Do you wanna He's already here.
Oh, he's here.
Should we move along to, let's bring
If he's here, he's good.
Mark, I don't want to keep you from anything else, but thank you so much for being here.
Sure. It's update.
So we're skipping ahead, we'll come back to these other pieces of the agenda, but we are skipping along to 11.1. Emergency Operations Center activations, and we have Mark Phillips here. Right out of the trenches. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Board. So I'm here to provide an update in terms of our UC activation and current events that we are monitoring. The Squamish-Lillooet Regional District EOC remains activated and it's activated level 2 and is working closely with BC Wildfire Service and our response partners to assess conditions, coordinate response efforts, and support the safety of residents and visitors throughout our region. The EOC continues to maintain 24/7 readiness posture, remain fully activated under the incident command system with complete staffing structure during day and on-call response capacity at night. I'll update you. I'll start off with the Place Glacier update and then we'll go to the wildfire update. So in regards to Place Glacier, on July 19th, the anticipated glacier outburst flood began. Water levels peaked during the evening of July 20th before steadily receding, with flows significantly reduced by the morning of July 21st. Based on the information provided by our technical experts, we know that the ice margin of the lake now appears to be fully drained. There are no impacts to primary residential structures, which have been observed at this time. The Pool Creek culvert is functioning as intended following the event, and initial inspections indicate that the Place Glacier embankment remains in good condition. Following the consultation with our experts, the SLRD determined that the immediate threat to life and safety associated with both the glacier outburst flood and the associated debris flow hazard has subsided. As a result, the evacuation order was rescinded yesterday at 3:30 p.m. I'd just like to recognize the patience and the cooperation of the affected residents throughout what has been a lengthy evacuation. I also want to make mention of our technical experts, our partner responders, the First Nations, our provincial partners, and the staff for their exceptional work over the past several weeks on this event. There is a conversation that needs to continue in regards to Place Glacier. In terms of next steps, we know that this hazard will continue to pose a threat to these communities for the foreseeable future. So there is some conversations and some strategic discussions that need to happen, I think, in the very short term to determine a path forward. So we are able to have that time to actually, provide our stance and also potentially take some measures so that this hazard can be appropriately addressed. I will now, so now that while Place Glacier has been a big part of our EOC, our attention is now shifted to several active wildfires throughout the region. The following updates that I'll provide are based on the most recent information available from the BC Wildfire Service, and I will only be commenting on those fires that are classified as out of control or they have impacts to our communities. And just for reference, an out of control wildfire means that the fire is spreading or is expected to spread beyond its current perimeter or control lines. I'll start out in electoral area A, the Bonanza Creek wildfire, and there's just a very recent update. The Bonanza Creek wildfire is located approximately 20 kilometers north of Goldbridge, burning in steep mountainous terrain. The fire is currently estimated at approximately 130 hectares. Due to the increased wildfire behavior, anticipated the humidity and temperatures in the coming days, and based on recommendation from the BC Wildfire Service, the SLRD at 13:30 today has issued an evacuation alert for properties at risk should conditions deteriorate. Just in terms of clarity of where that is located, so essentially it's areas west of Jones Creek and north of Carpenter Lake, including Marshall Lake and Tyotin. It's areas north of Goldbridge of the Bridge River, including Gun Lake and Gun Creek Road, and areas north of Downton Lake. There is, this is posted on our website, social media, etc., and a point alert has been issued associated with this alert. The SLRD EOC continues to work closely with BC Wildfire Service Kamloops Fire Center, local First Nations and other response partners to monitor conditions and undertake advanced planning should additional protective measures or actions need to be taken. I'll move on to electoral area B, which is the Pear Lake wildfire. The Pear Lake wildfire is located in the northern portion of electoral area B, near the TNRD district boundary, and community Pear Lake area, but it's known as Kelly Lake locally. The fire is currently estimated at approximately 50 hectares. Due to immediate threat posed by the wildfire, the SLRD issued an evacuation order at 3 p.m. on July 20th to that community. There's about 12 district properties there. The RCMP expedited that action, and they're continuing to maintain a regular presence in the evacuation area. And also the Ministry of Transportation and Transit have established security checkpoints both on the north side and on the south side to support public safety and protect evacuated properties. Also just note the great collaboration with our partners in the TNRD in terms of mapping, etc.
Mark, can I interrupt you with a question on that one?
Sure.
Was the Pavilion Kelly Lake Road was closed, was it not?
Yes,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
there's on the TNRD side of the park, Kelly Lake Park, close from that point, and the south side as well, just above the transfer station.
Okay. Thanks,
Excuse me.
sorry, carry on.
I appreciated the break so I could cough there for a second.
Perfect.
So our team continues to maintain regular communication with BC Wildfire Service, and this one is in the Caribou Fire Center, the TNRD, First Nations, and other partner agencies. Excuse me. Area C. The two Twin Creek wildfires located north of Lillooet in electoral area C. It's approximately 150 hectares at this time. Fire activity increased overnight, and there was some growth. They continues to burn in steep terrain, which is difficult to action. BC Wildfire Service are establishing containment lines, but there are no threats to homes or critical infrastructure at this time. There's no orders or alerts in place. And I will
They are taking into consideration, obviously, the value of the forest that's there. For future, I mean, it's fine and dandy to say there's no homes in Jeffrey or anything, but if we keep burning these forests down, that's a huge economic impact to all of us, right? So I hope and I'm sure they take that into consideration, but it just seems that sometimes this let it burn stuff just doesn't add up. When you think about it.
How close is it to the road on the FSR there?
It is still quite high in the outline, but they are closely monitoring it, and our team is doing advanced planning for the community. I would say that wildfire, I think there's many factors in terms of priorities, but I think the primary one is life safety and protection of property and critical infrastructure is their target right now. And we know that many wildfires burning across our province. So I think they have focused life safety and and although this one's closed, I'm just pleased to say that the situation at Signal Hill Wildfire has improved significantly. Following recommendations from Wildfire, the SLRD rescinded its evacuation alert on July 19th. We'll note that the Village of Pemberton also has an order that still maintains around 1 Mile Lake. And we know that BC Wildfire crews continue to suppress and patrol activities, but there's no longer fire risk to the community from that fire. I will also note that just during collaboration, partnership with program staff and then the village was fantastic. And I think the collaboration in terms of messaging, mapping was just, I think, made it a lot more effective. And I think it was it's a great way to start off the season with that type of partnership. Before I conclude, I also remind residents and the board that Environment Canada has issued heat warning for parts of the SLRD, and wildfire smoke continues to affect many communities. The combination of extreme heat and wildfire smoke can increase health risks, particularly in vulnerable populations. And also for the latest information, residents should continue to rely on official sources, including the SLRD alerts, Environment Canada, BC Wildfire Service Dashboard, Tri BC, Vancouver Coastal Health, and Interior Health. And I'd also just recognize the tremendous work being done by our EOC staff, our partners, First Nations, and the collaboration across the board. This wildfire season is kicking off. The situation remains dynamic, and our EOC will continue to be activated to monitor the situation around the clock and prepare for any action that may be required. I'll leave it at that, because I think I've been talking too much for about 6 days straight. Thanks. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Go ahead.
Thank you very much.
That's it's a ton of work when you've got that many different competing interests all on your mind, and trying to manage overlapping emergencies is no small feat. So thank you very much.
I think this is more so in terms of planning for the feed, like we're very much in the thick of it right now, but I do want to pick up on the place glacier component. You mentioned some consideration of this is expected to be kind of a longer term situation with not a very solid solution. I don't expect you to have the answer right now as you're in the thick of responding to multiple emergencies, but I guess it's more so a flag if you have any immediate thoughts, or how maybe once things have settled, we can think about what advocacy and or action we can take to make this perhaps not a reoccurring item every year, but something that becomes more sustainable for our staff. We know that EOC activates, unfortunately, fairly significantly every year, and we have something that we're going to anticipate take up a fair number of resources every year for the next however many years. It feels challenging.
Through the chair, I do have some thoughts, and I think to your point that this does take significant capacity to manage. It was over a month of evacuation measures, and I think and the amount of work that goes behind those, and the considerations and the coordination with technical experts, but also just recognizing the impacts of the community, the emotional and financial, all those impacts, and the ongoing that for the foreseeable future, that it seems like unless something changes, that will be the course. I do think that we need to start this discussion sooner than later. I think we need the province to reopen the conversation with us, and we need them to support and provide leadership to I think first it is about assessing the reports that we've already done related to mitigation, both at the glacier site, reviewing the options we put forwards, engaging with subject matter experts to determine if there are other options, and also looking at the valley bottom. In terms of the culvert, we know that the bottom of the Pool Creek has risen just due to sediment buildup. But I think we do need to engage with the province to support us in moving forwards on securing those next steps. And we recognize that we don't want to be bringing something forwards, report or something like that in January, that we need to bring it forwards in the fall to give us enough time to potentially take action ready for the following outburst period.
Director Richmond, go ahead.
I'm stating what you already know, but you know, as with the ongoing issues of Place Glacier and the evacuation orders and the yearly event now, as you know, it kind of builds complacency with some people when we go give evacuation orders. And I mean, this is more of a communication bit, but I think it's something that we're gonna have to really work towards or keep in mind when things do calm down, and you're putting a mind towards the future of this, and how we manage people. So I know it was part of the, you know, around the Signal Hill fire, when to evacuate, how it's always been a difficult one around flooding as well. When to make that order, and if you do it once or twice and nothing happens, then you develop this cry wolf sort of problem. So yeah, I just want to flag that. I've already heard from people. We've had a letter. There's folks that feel that maybe we're evacuating for nothing. We know that's not the case, but there's going to be a big communication bit around this for the future, so that people respect the orders and understand where they come from.
100%. Yeah.
Like I say, stay in the obvious.
Yeah. No, 100%. And I think and there are a lot of learnings from this year, I think. And I think recognizing that the way that this outburst this year was, weren't able to predict this. We had leading glaciologists advising what was going to happen, and they're learning things as this event's unfolding. I think that, like, obviously the conversation about mitigation is I think the first one, but I do think there's learnings, and we've learned a lot as we proceed through this in terms of the instrumentation that we have up there. So we do have a better idea now, and about when we can, when we potentially see floods, and we have them at different levels. So we have a better ability to pre-warning for the event, which potentially would change the measures. And I will note that the measures that we worked on this year were provided in the Stantec report that we had that gave us the guidelines and the framework based off their technical expertise about when we should be placing evacuation alerts and orders. But 100% learnings, and we want orders to mean something is, yeah. Safety.
Director Mack and then Director Pinkham.
Yeah, like, as you mentioned about the culverts, I think we need to really put pressure on the ministry, and I would say go directly to Minister Farnsworth and deal with him. We deal with Miller Cap and it's a waste of time. And we deal with MOT here in Squamish, it's a waste of time. Go directly to the man in charge and just explain to him how important it is to get these culverts upsized. You know, I know everybody's saying a bridge is the way to go. You know, the trouble we've had on Reed Road. They put the old culverts back in. We don't have a bridge there, which we had, you know, was recommended to us. So I think the thing, what we need to do is really put the pressure on the ministry to say that if those culverts were doubled in size so that everything can just flow freely under any conditions. And I know they're probably gonna come back and say, well, a tree could block it, blah, blah, blah. But the fact is, if there was double sized at least, it's not gonna back the water up all the way to where the water comes down off the mountain. It's gonna free flow out into the Birkenhead. And that's what it has to do. Because as soon as you put a blockage in the way, as we had on the Forest Service Road, Lillooet Lake Estates, that forestry bridge there was the blockage. So, you know, we need to get rid of that. And the sooner the better, because as they say, it's gonna be around for 10 or more years on an annual event. Because we're gonna have the same conditions every spring with snow melt, rain, and the glacier receding. So I think we really need to put pressure on these folks.
Yeah, thank you for your report. You guys have been busy and the communications has been going out, has been amazing. Really good work on the communications on all this. Just prior to us coming back, I got the Voyant alert for Area A for the evacuation alert, and it's all over social media in our valley now. So it's the communications is really good. And again, I want to let people know if they aren't subscribed to the Voyant alert, to do it. It's important. And you got various means of getting it. So whether it's email or voicemail or telephone or whatever app that you're using, you can sign up for it. Thank you very much for all the hard work you're doing, and the communications department also.
Thank you very much. I think, yeah, we have an exceptional team across all sections, including the comms. Very proud of those comments.
Yeah, thanks. It's really challenging right now. I think just my 8 years in local government, the frequency of evacuation alerts and orders and the amount of time that people are forced to leave their homes and their communities, and the amount of time I think all of us in this corridor spend worrying about, hey, am I gonna have a home next week because a flood or a fire or something takes it out. It's really unacceptable, I would say. I think, you know, it's quite clear this has to be part of our regular budgeting and planning. And people talk about the new normal, but this isn't normal, and we can't let it be normal. I think others have said that, but it's really important. And I think following up on Place Glacier and so on with the government is important, but I think we need to start quantifying the cost of these things, whether or not the province acts on it, and whether it's the cost to mitigate or adapt for Place Glacier, the lost opportunity in forests that are burning and then we can't harvest, all of these things. Because the government, upper levels of government seem to be saying, well, there's some revenue in this pipeline. And think about all that revenue and no one's counting all these costs and all the trauma and that we're spending in local government that's coming out of local taxes and I don't know how else to make the governments respond. Maybe if they start seeing some dollar figures, which maybe it's on us to put those dollar figures together. But yeah, it's not an acceptable situation and we have to figure out how to do better. I'm really glad we have the team we do. But our team and as local governments, we shouldn't have to be doing these things and we shouldn't be bearing these things as communities.
Anyone else? You're doing great work.
Thank you very much, Chair. Thanks for
You want to carry on with the rules?
This is what I get from.
Let's just check it off. Okay. The second portion of the CAO verbal update is strategic priorities grant. Over to you.
This is today.
CAO.
One of these.
Hi, everyone. Heather Paul, CAO SLRD. I have some disappointing news about our strategic priorities grant. We applied for 3 Divine Water Systems upgrade at 3.25 million funding request. Gold Bridge Water Systems upgrade phase 1, because we've split into 2 phases to make it more affordable, $1.876 million request. And then the Britannia Beach Master Planning Project of waterfront land, that was a total request of 45,000. None of them were approved. I will say that the letter from the province, they were oversubscribed by hundreds of millions of dollars and they had to make some difficult decisions. I'll also say that all 3 of them not being approved is disappointing. Staff are going back to the drawing board on how to fund. Some of these are critical systems upgrades. How to fund with grants instead of the small taxation base that's there or in conjunction with. And we'll come back to a future meeting about that. But I did ask General Manager Butt to be here to also field questions. Do you have anything? But I want to let you all know that.
Questions from anyone?
The one for Britannia, did you say that was 25,000?
Sorry, it's 45,000.
45. And that was to cover a feasibility study. Was it gonna cost that much or?
That's the estimated cost for a study.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Oh, that's a shame.
Okay.
Just follow up, we're gonna request meetings with the UBCM staff as well to see where, if it was something with the applications, to make sure we put our best applications forward to the jury.
Okay, great. Okay, thank you.
And for any other updates that you're expecting, we'll move that over to the town of the staff of the time.
Right. Okay, so now we will go, motion to receive, moved by Director Herford, second by Director Rainbow, all in favor, any opposed, motion carries. 9.1, Electoral Area B Agricultural Advisory Committee recommendations from June 17th. That Area B be excluded from the feasibility study work related to the Agricultural Land Trust, and that the SLRD board write an advocacy letter to Minister of Agriculture and Food regarding the need for expanded grant funding programs to support small food producers with management of wildlife conflicts, particularly fencing and CC key producer groups such as bees, cattle, and laughs. Anyone want to support those 2 motions? Or have any questions? You want to move it?
Oh, yes, I would like to move these and both of these stats. We have lots of farmland in Area B. What we're missing is farmers. We are not interested in participating in the Agricultural Land Trust at this time, and the AAC. We had a really great meeting and welcome to the new staff, and we had it in person in Lillooet, and we're gonna do that on an annual basis. So people can get to know each other and yeah, that it was like, I just really appreciated it. And in particular, the fellow that came over from the Ministry of Agriculture and, he's just been on the screen. He's just been a guy on the screen up to now, Will, and I've had some conversations with him since then about drought and water scarcity and so forth. Really helpful. It was really great to have him there in person, and thank you. Also, I'm trying to help with a resolution later about, the fencing situation and the deer. We'll talk about that later, but I appreciate that we're writing to the province to try and get them to fill that gap in a funding rebate program that should be available, at least for Area B farmers. And so, yeah,
We'll come to that.
I'd like to move both of them.
Okay, thank you. And I had it seconded by Director Demare. Do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, just unclear to me, would exclusion of area B from the feasibility study save organizational capacity, and or would inclusion in the study sort of obligate area B to participate in something that would be a burden or an obstacle for area B? I'm just trying to wonder, what the harm is of sort of including it in the study, but not really pursuing sort of an actual project there, if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you through the chair. So this idea of the agriculture land trust feasibility study is an outstanding resolution from a few years ago, and there is a need for grant funding to advance that work. So just to know that it's not that staff are not working on this right now. And we have heard recurring concerns from the Area B AAC around what the agriculture land trust is, how that would apply in Area B, how that would relate to the Area B agriculture plan, and its implementation, and whether it would take away take energy away from other priorities for agriculture in that area. I think that's the main flag that the Area B AAC has raised. And really noting that an agriculture land trust may be really needed in Area D or maybe really needed in Area C. They're saying we don't need it in Area B. So let's focus other attentions in Area B, and then look at the agriculture land trust in some of our other agriculture areas. And I will say, was to be determined whether that is agriculture valley specific or whether it would be electoral area specific, or how that land trust would play out. There are limited examples in BC right now of local government driven agriculture land trusts and how that would work in practice. And I think noting that a lot of our energies have been supporting the on the ground grassroots work of, say, Squamish Food Policy Council, Stewardship Pemberton, Pemberton Farmers Institute, and LAFS, and all connected through our agriculture plans.
Okay. Okay, so I'll call the question on the motion as it was. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move along. We're now at the Area Directors Committee recommendations of July 8th. 9.2.1. Good conversation happened at the EAD committee around the idea of wanting to understand our capacity as a regional district to implement or the implications, considerations, costs, etc., of establishing a business licensing program within the regional district. And so the EAD has asked that the board support and endorse that work to come forward at an appropriate time. And I think it was meant to be referred to the budget process to include. Here we are. You're here. Do you want to speak to us about this?
I mean, I can jump in for, thank you for the recap of the discussion. One thing that Lee and I have discussed following the recommendation coming out of the EAD is that it would be staff's recommendation, if there's a desire to
explore this business licensing idea further would be to scope it to short-term rentals, rather than business licensing function across the regional district. That we don't see a need at this time, and it would also really expand the capacity required if we are rolling out just business licensing in general. Would note that not many regional districts have a business licensing function. It is relatively new that regional districts have been enabled to take on that role. There could be benefits specific to short-term rentals and connecting in with the provincial registration system and also provincial compliance and enforcement resources, and noting that short-term rentals do require a fair bit of time from our bylaw enforcement officer at present, whereas other businesses are not. So yeah, leave it there for now, and Lee has also done some preliminary sort of review of what that business licensing system looks like at the provincial level and how that would relate to our regional district.
So would you like to move that?
Certainly.
Seconded by Director Rainbow. I'm looking forward to seeing what staff come back with as far as the just the report, and then giving the board the option of exploring it further after we have that information. So
thank you. Through Chair, is it possible to have it clarified that we are really looking at short-term rentals? The way the resolution right now, it is more broad, and I think staff is hoping to narrow that scope down.
Through the chair,
Okay with that?
I'm very curious about short-term rentals. Is it bed and breakfast? We don't allow short-term rentals in the SLRD.
Thank you through the chair for that clarifying question. You are correct. Our zoning does not allow short-term rentals. We know there are a lot of short-term rentals operating in the SLRD, and we have without business licensing, it's very hard to take any enforcement action on those operations that are happening outside of our zoning regulations.
so the motion as presented in the agenda, you're asking that we amend, now that it's been moved and seconded and it's on the floor, we would require someone to amend it to reduce the scope to look specifically at short-term rentals within the regional district. Is that your
Through the
ask?
chair, that would be staff's ask and recommendation. I also acknowledge that the discussion at the EAD was broader in scope.
Yeah.
So I think that's where we're just trying to clarify the intent.
You first and second bit, so can I make a comment?
Yeah.
Just to support. We don't allow zoning doesn't allow for anything, so business license would not solve this problem. It would be one of the steps towards the solution. The first one would be zoning amendment or people applying for a variance. And a bylaw service would need to be established, and then a business license application to be established. And that would be specifically for short-term rentals is what staff have looked at. They've thought, there are safety concerns, et cetera, so it would be worthwhile looking into it, but the question of the board is, would you support rezoning for short-term rentals? And we could bring this back to reports very piecemeal, so we don't do a whole bunch of work before we get to that question. So perhaps a report with those questions for the board to consider.
Yeah.
Yeah, I understand the position CEO has taken there. I think we know that we have tons of short-term rentals. Never mind the municipalities, that's their business. I'll just talk about Area D. I know there are lots of people running Airbnbs and VRBOs and things like that. They know they're not compliant and they don't care. And the attitude is kind of, what the SLRD going to do? That sort of, and it bothers me, that kind of, snubbiness like that, it bothers me. So if we can do something that will move us towards having more control over that, so that people, if somebody wants to have an Airbnb, there's a process they can go through. They could get, I think, get zoning just for their area. What's that called? Is that's possible, isn't it?
Get a variance on zoning?
Yeah, so thank you through the chair. What has been proposed in the past, and that this option is available, is a temporary use permit for short-term nightly rentals. And then that would the option is also for a zoning amendment application. Right now in area D, bed and breakfasts are not permitted as of right, which in most of our electoral areas they are, and that was removed because of the concerns around short-term nightly rentals. We do know that there are over 22 listings in Britannia Beach alone right now. So that's just the context and the scope with which we're operating, and those are operating on the sites, and we don't have a way of rectifying our zoning with the operations currently.
So my comment then is, if this helps us move towards a way of having some degree of control for all kinds of reasons, disturbing people in the community, parking issues, noise issues, all of those kinds of things that it's tough for us to deal with right now. And if this is, I'm not sure the order, whatever the order, I don't care what order it is, but if we do a series of things that's going to lead us to the point where we can have that degree of control, then I think we should pursue them. So that's why I'm seconding this.
Okay, and I think just to bring us back to what we're deciding today, this is just asking staff to come back with the suggestions of what can be done and in what order. Not getting into the decisions made and when.
Yeah.
I do have a speakers list. I do think this is important to get more information before we kind of gut check this and send it off saying we already know what the outcome is going to be. So Chris, then Lori, then Jack.
Yeah, just given what I've heard in my comfort, I'd like to test it at an amendment, which be that staff bring forward a report outlining the best ways to improve regulation of short-term rentals.
How is that different?
Well, this sort of talks about business license in general and implications, consideration, cost benefits, and so it talks about a specific mechanism and all the things. I'm trying to be a little more like, it's about regulating short-term rentals and let us know what the best options are. It sounds like that's what we're trying to get at.
Okay. So rather than focusing in on the business license piece, okay. Do I have a seconder for the amendment? Seconded to Director Herford. Speaking to the motion, you've done that. Anyone else wish to speak to the amendment? Go ahead, Director.
Thank you. I think that narrows it down a bit too much, because I do believe the discussion at the electoral area directors meeting, we would like to have a business license program in the broad sense. We recognize that that's not practical in any near future date. The immediate pressure is on short-term rentals. Is that the best phrase? Is that the best thing to say, short-term rental? Then, because we can certainly just amend it to say with an initial focus on short-term rental, so that we don't lose the bigger ask, which was just considering we would like to be, and maybe the board doesn't want the electoral areas to be able to issue business licenses, in which case, maybe we should not continue this conversation. We would like to, though. So I don't want to lose that, which that amendment does.
Okay, thank you. Can I go through my speakers list, or do you want to respond back to that specifically? Okay, go
Yeah,
ahead.
if I could, and the reason I'm interested, like what I heard is that there's a sort of specific immediate thing around short-term rentals. It seems like we could take action on that. I'm not opposed to a business regulation more generally, but it's not clear, is this about revenue generation? Are we trying to regulate other particular problems? And this to me sounds like quite possibly very valid, but maybe a bit more of a strategic plan the next board, like where does this fit in? It seems like it could be a big thing or maybe not. But there's a bunch of other things there, and as opposed to this seems a very actionable, specific known thing that we could report on.
Yeah, I'm just worried that we're getting way too deep into the how we're going to do this rather than getting the information back from staff that will give us information, make the next step decision. Director Hoffeld and Director Crompton.
Thanks. So when you bring back the information, it was my understanding that the province changed the VRBO and Airbnb to they would not advertise if they didn't have a business license. So I'm just wondering if you could include that kind of information before we make those decisions, because I mean, yes, they could go through a TUP or a variance or whatever, but I just think that if we're not allowed any short-term rentals and the government has that to say that they have to have a business license and we can't get a business license because they're not allowed, like it just seems like we're, okay.
Through the chair, actually, anyone can register. And the business license from the local governments, municipalities is included when it's applicable. So for SLRD properties, which don't issue business licenses, they have a provincial registration number.
So they're allowed to do it. If there's no business license in the local government, then you can register and you're on the sites. So anyways, again, this is like, this is a short-term rental 101 that we need to go through before we can make a big decision. And it is really important, I think, that I'm gonna come back to you, Jack, but I've heard from constituents in Area D that want to legitimize what they're doing. They're not flouting, the rules and saying, forget it, we're just gonna do what we're gonna do. I'm sure there are people
There are
that,
people like that as well.
but there are also people who want to do this legitimately.
Yes.
Because this is an important part of their livelihood. And so I don't want to dismiss that. I think that, so the current amendment, we're again speaking to the amendment, achieves one piece of this. I trust that staff have heard what we would like them to come back with in the report before, narrowing it to, I don't see them going out to a full business license procurement process that is gonna be far more reaching. Jack, you're next.
I think this is a really good amendment. I don't think it closes the option of establishing business licensing, and that may be the path that we walk, but personally, I'd be looking for the simplest way to accomplish the task. It sounds like TP's maybe it. I look forward to seeing what comes back. And if it doesn't include business licensing, then maybe we can, and there is a desire for business licensing generally for some other purpose that's not STR, then a resolution to establish business licensing because that's something we want, could be something we can deal with in the future. But to me, this is wise and I think supportable.
Great. Claire?
To add to the conversation, just to clarify that there is a need for a service establishment bylaw for regional districts when you bring in business licensing, and I only bring that up. We know that we have a list of service establishment bylaws that the SRD is working through prioritizing and actioning. So I just want to bring that forward so that the board is aware that there will be time. The timeframes will. It will take time to action any of this. Bringing forward the staff report is one, but even any type of rollout, there is a service establishment bylaw requirement for business licensing in regional districts. We also know that this will have staff resourcing needs attached to it too, and we can bring those back with the staff report. I just wanted to flag those two pieces because it is different than in municipalities, and noting that these are all sort of new processes within the last 2 years that regional districts have had this ability as well.
Director Rainbow, you're my last speaker on.
Yeah, just a comment about business licensing. My understanding of it, I hope I'm correct, is that within a municipality, somebody applies for a business license and the municipality has the option of granting it or not, depending on what the business is and where it's located. You have some control. Do you know? Yeah. Now, I like to have things in place that will work when the current actors are no longer there. And what I mean there is, consider Britannia Beach at the moment. And the developer that built the village and everything like that, they consulted with the community and made some guarantees about the kinds of businesses that they would allow. They might not be in control of that forever. You don't know what's going to happen with that corporation. And there could be a time down the road when somebody else is making those decisions that the community and the board here don't particularly like. And I would prefer to have a business license thing in place so that the local government has some control over what kind of businesses operate in the rural areas. If it turns out the report comes back and that that business licensing doesn't provide that control, then okay, but that's what I would like to move forward with the broader view.
Okay. Okay, so calling the question on the amendment. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, I have Director Birch Jones and Director Demare opposed. Anyone else? Okay. Motion, the amendment passes. Now calling the question on the amended motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Director Demare is opposed. Motion carries. Thank you. (9.2.2) is a request for decision regarding the 2026 Community Work Fund project funding allocation.
Hi, Colin Hodgins, Deputy Director of Finance. This is a request just to reallocate some funds that were previously allocated in the budget. There's just been direction from the UES staff that they've identified a project they would like to prioritize over what we had originally allocated funds for. So it's just reallocating that 20,000 to the other project. I'm happy to answer any questions as best I can from the finance side of things.
Thank you, Jane.
Okay, any questions?
I'll move that.
Moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Birch Jones. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. 9.2.3 is Community Works Funds, Director, or Mr. Hodges.
Yeah, pretty straightforward. This was a request from the District of Lillooet for $10,000 of Area B Community Works Funds towards the installation of sage shales at the Lillooet Rec Center playground. Then we would enter into a contribution agreement with the District of Lillooet for providing the funding.
Thank you. Moved by Director Pettengill.
I had a question, yeah, just wondering, I was curious why something like mature trees or something would not be a preference as opposed to sales or, I don't want to start a big.
They're planted.
So maybe it.
I can answer that. It's that we do have some small trees there, but the trees are, there's about 8 feet to the rec center arena. And we had to cut the existing trees down because roots were growing under and growing to it. So the playground is really too close to put up huge trees again. That's why.
It's a really popular spot for families to go and kids to play, but honest to God, that meadow gets, like you can imagine, and it's getting the full afternoon sun. It's unbearable in the afternoon. But we need some shade there. I'd like to move this.
Okay, great. Moved by Director Hopeful, seconded by Director Birch Jones. Any further comments? All in favor, any opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to 9.2.4, Lillooet Agriculture and Food Society for deer fencing, Director Birch Jones. Or did you want to speak to it first, Mr. Hodge?
Sure, I can speak to it quickly. We did prepare that cover page that kind of summarizes our opinion on this request. I do want to say that, I know we have a great relationship with LAFs and that they're doing a lot of great work in the community, and this is an important topic, but the way that this request is worded is, we feel is providing benefit to for-profit businesses, and we would recommend that that last rework will find a way to provide benefit to the community, which isn't directly benefiting for-profit businesses. If these farmers had applied directly to the SLRD, we would not fund them directly. So putting a nonprofit between us and those for-profit societies doesn't really change the intention of where those grant funds are going. Yeah, we're happy to answer any questions on this or discussion, yeah.
I'm gonna go to Director Jones first and then.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of myself. I'm on the next one.
No. 9.2. I understand staff's concerns, but this is a Band-Aid, all right? This is a short-term solution. Think about this as like climate mitigation, all right? This is the reason that we have this problem is because we have lost thousands and thousands of hectares of winter mule deer range habitat and forage. We have, I won't go into, I mean, I've seen presentations on where the mule deer are at there and how much forage they've lost and so on. And it's very worrisome. Statleam are particularly worried. It's really important species for them for food and many other reasons. A lot of those deer have found their way into the very comfortable environs of Lillooet, and we've always had deer, but with this loss of habitat, which is related to climate change and the horrendous fires, we have a lot more deer in town, and those deer are having young deer, and we're into about, I don't know, 4th generation deer. These guys are habituated now. We also have our migrant mule deer population that come and go. The pressure on the farms, there's a lot of people that just aren't having their gardens because they can't keep the deer out. So they're not growing their own food. So not only is this a climate mitigation issue, it's also a food sovereignty issue. We have farmers that haven't had produce to bring to the farmer's market or take to market because the deer have decimated their crops. And we have an orchardist, generations where they've been able to make some money from their orchard. And I'm not talking about a lot of money. So when Mr. Hodgkins brought this up first, we're giving money to for-profit business. We're like, whoa, there's your first mistake. Our farmers are not making a lot of money. They're not, like, the margins are very slim. And we're trying to keep the few farmers who do have successfully operating here in Area B going. And when they look at their profit margins and the cost of fencing, like the one guy told me, well, it will be 10 years before I could pay off, that's taking my profits for the next 10. So it is pretty dire. We really think that while the staff are doing really wonderful things like writing to the province, as you just heard, the AAC will be writing to the province to say, hey, there's a gap in your rebate program for fencing here, because they will rebate fencing for ranchers, right? But not, oh, you're still here, wonderful, right, correct me. But they won't for like the vegetable growers, for the people that go to the farmer's market. And this is the livelihood for these farmers, the few farmers that we have. So this is not intended to be an ongoing program. It's not intended to be an entire solution. What it's hoping to do is through Lillooet Agriculture and Food, who I know will be very prudent in how they manage these funds, to give some short-term help to try and help keep some of our farmers in business. And don't look at it as benefiting the individual farmer so much as, let's use this fence to protect this agricultural land. The fence isn't going to be going anywhere, right? It's a contribution towards protecting the agricultural land. That's the thinking. So I'd like to move this.
I'll second it.
Okay. Go ahead.
Through the chair, we might not have the answer, but $50,000, $10,000 per farmer, how many?
Up to.
How many farmers, like, what is the criteria for first come, first served?
So
What are the criteria for accessing the funding? Is it on a first come, first served basis? How
That
many
would be, we would,
farmers are there that could use the support versus how much are we providing? Like, I'm just trying to get a sense of.
do you
Is
want
it the
to?
first five, like, are there 5 folks who already know that they need this and they're on the list, or is
No,
it a
but
list
we
of
know,
20?
we know of a couple for sure.
Yeah.
And obviously this has not been put out there because we have not secured this funding. LAFS is very aware of what the issues are and who some of the people are. And I'm pretty confident in the board of LAFS, the directors there, won't be an easy decision for these guys either, but I know that they will be fair and prudent and. What did you want to add to anything? Did you want to attach some sort of criteria to this then, Director Stoner?
Just to,
Questions?
through the chair, just to comment on that, just, a month or two ago, we passed a pretty comprehensive grant administration policy that kind of outlined all of our selection criteria, how we, handled these grant applications, and by allocating this funding to LAFS to administer the grant program would essentially be getting rid of all those internal controls that we just tried to set up. There wasn't any sort of description or promise on how this would be distributed fairly. I think, that's definitely one of our concerns, is that we don't have oversight into the selection process or how those funds are going to be allocated based on the letter that was submitted to us. I think that's an area that we would need more information on, certainly before I would feel comfortable approving anything like this. And yeah, and Suzanne, do you have anything to add on that?
I don't think I have anything to add. I think you covered it well. Thanks.
So if I'm understanding, the issue at hand isn't whether or not this is a important cause or good cause, it's that the community charter prohibits us from doing this in this case?
The LGA does not allow a regional district to provide benefit or support to a for-profit business or organization. So the request has come through a nonprofit society, but their intentions are to grant that funding to for-profit societies. I know Vivian has mentioned whether or not that's for-profit, but if they're not registered as a nonprofit society, then we deem them as for-profit. So yeah, the issue is that we are, through a nonprofit, providing benefit directly to for-profit farming businesses, and that's how it's worded in the request that we received.
And what are the consequences of us for sort of doling out money contrary to the LGA?
Potential legal action. I mean, I haven't been through that before. Since I've been here, we haven't funded our business, so usually we are not recommending it.
And if I understood correctly, if the ask was restructured, LAFS could still receive funding from us in a legitimate way and without sort of causing legal exposure, still provide support through their own mechanisms for different things, but there just needs to be a more appropriate structure, is that?
Yes, I think, our view is that there's ways, like, we know this is an important issue, and there's probably other ways to tackle this issue with fencing or the deer community, but the way that the letter is structured to us, having essentially offering money for them to provide a grant to for-profit businesses is not something that we would recommend. If they were looking at a larger.
Rebate. It's a rebate to farmers that invest in the fencing. That's what's in the.
Well, a rebate for purchasing fencing and granting funds is, we're paying for fencing for farmers who are operating for profit.
Yep.
But I'm not sure the solution. I'm not an agricultural expert, but I would think that there are ways that we could probably address this issue where ensuring that the money is providing a community-wide benefit. Currently, we would be providing fencing for a for-profit organization, but there's no guarantee that those cost savings are being passed on to anyone else other than those farmers who are receiving that fencing. They are stating that they need, from what I can read in the resolution, is they're having trouble maintaining profitability, and they're looking for fencing to ensure that they're profitable, but there's no wording or kind of guarantee that anything is going to be passed on to the community. So I would think that an overarching feasibility study or work on public lands or some sort of way to ensure that there's community benefit would be a better use of funding than just providing a rebate or a grant for fencing installations on private property for private businesses.
Can I just call a 5-minute recess, please? Thank you. We'll call this meeting back to order. I feel that staff have been brave in their recommendation not to support this request. I feel that there is merit to the request, but maybe it needs refinement so that we are not offside to the local government act. And so my suggestion would be that we fail this motion and bring forward a motion that refer this back to staff and ask staff to go find other solutions. There's probably a way that this can be done legitimately and fairly and without causing a whole bunch of extra staff work. Because what I've heard Mr. Hodgins and Director LaFrance say is that this is contrary to good advice, and we don't operate that way. So while I appreciate the urgency and the passion through which the organizations have asked for this funding, it's not, it is contrary to best practices. And so I would request just giving staff some time to come back with some options. I do have you all on my speakers list, I will say. I will get to you, but I want to make sure that we're doing everything correctly. Is that fair to say? So I will go, Corporate Officer Belsham, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you. Just the opportunity to remind the board that with our new procedure bylaw, we wouldn't need to move ahead to a vote. There is now an option for you to withdraw a motion.
Okay.
All we would require is that the mover and the seconder of it agree, and we would take it off the floor and be able to move forward, and that would not be shown in the minutes.
Okay. Okay.
Just providing
So,
an option.
Thank you, and I appreciate that. And I will go to, I'm just gonna go down the line here for sake of ease. Director Demare.
Yes. At the EAD meeting, I brought up where electric fencing was given to the
Grizzly Bears.
the grizzly bear group. And it was 5,000 one year and I think 5,000 the second year for electric fencing. And that went to for-profit organizations.
Don't recall, I think it went to homeowners. Because that was, they were to protect farmers.
Farmers, they're in their carrots.
And bears from being killed because.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was discussed among staff and general manager, but did say it is a different program and I can ask him to come in here or we can move this to a different discussion at a different time with staff and board.
I agree, if we can get staff to look at a different process to get this funding out so that it can help the community. Basically, it's helping the community.
Yeah,
With
and our objective is to get to yes. I think we've all agreed, we want to get to yes, but we want to do that the correct way. Director Herford, you're next.
Yeah, essentially that, I'm sure there's a path through this, but the path we're on isn't that. I know that with these matters are solvable as far as the making sure that we're on side with our processes. This is why we have flow funds to a chamber of commerce that flows them into the business, like into various initiatives and so on, but it needs to be, to do that responsibly, it needs more refinement. So in its current form, it's not supportable for me, and I think that retracting it is better than voting it down, but that's where I'm left.
Thank you, Director Rain.
Yeah, it's July. Our next board meeting is September. If we're not able to craft something and pass it today, we might as well forget it for this year because the crops are being eaten now. So I'm just wondering, is it possible to have a motion which will approve this, provided certain things are done, and we can ask staff to tell us what needs to be done. But you know, if what we need is a different kind of an application or a different kind of letter from Loves or from the food bank or from whoever, then we could pass a motion that we approve this expenditure, provided that staff are happy with a new letter. Better wording, I'm sure that Angela can come up with some better wording, but something along those lines. And then what can happen is that could happen maybe over the next week. And the money could be released and in time to do something this year.
Okay, short of deciding how long it's gonna take staff, because we don't know how long it'll take them. Let's save your comment, because I appreciate that. Can we defer this and bring it back tomorrow to give us an idea of what can be done? I hear you. But we don't know that it'll take a week. I hear you on the July part, and that we can't make it, you know, if we defer it to a future board meeting, it might not be till October. I get that. I'm sure there's way through, that's the objective of my comments. I'm gonna go to Director Mack and then Director Birch Jones and then Director Richmond.
My comments are gonna be the same as
Thank you.
Director Rainbow's.
Okay, thank you, Director Birch Jones.
Well, just, you know, the province, eventually we hope they will be providing some rebates for fencing for this very reason. There is an urgent need for it, but that won't happen quickly. That's, I mean, and I appreciate that we're working on that. This is a short-term interim. This is like, we have a lot of people that are holding coupons, people that are poor, single moms, seniors, you know, all of those groups, and they get to take those coupons to the farmers market so that they can get fresh produce, right? And that's a subsidized program from, well, there needs to be some produce there for them to purchase. And so, yeah. I'm really hoping that we can get this through, and if there needs to be some discussion between staff and LAFs as to how to administer this in a way that makes them a little more comfortable, but that we can still get to yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
I think this puts staff in an awkward position. Right now, staff don't see a through line and haven't had time to think of what the
Right.
solution would be. So putting in the motion of what we would want to see isn't fair, and then leaving it up to us to decide. I want to commend staff for bringing their professional opinion, and that's what's at the table today. We can go and put staff capacity towards it. I will say it will not be immediate. We are already focused on EOCs and other things, so it might not, I'm gonna say a really hard truth, it might not be a solution for this year.
Director Richmond, then Director Hopple.
I was getting just similar to you. I was wondering from staff if 24 hours would help this conversation a little bit. If we defer this till tomorrow, or if it's like this is a bigger piece, then I hear that, then we move to another meeting.
Not gonna hurt. Give Jeff a little bit of time, and maybe you come back with the same answer, and that is okay.
Yeah.
Is that fair?
Through the chair, I personally don't have like a solution at hand. I'm not an agricultural expert, and there's a lot of things that I feel are missing from this application that I would need to connect with LAFs, and I don't think I'm gonna have the answer tomorrow either. But I think there may be a way to support them with some funding to help with this cause in a different manner. But I don't think I have a resolution I can just tweet today to get this funding approved under.
Well, if you have some thoughts, let us know.
Maybe not right now.
I do,
Bring you
I
back
mean,
tomorrow.
we can work on something with LAFs, but I would need to understand a lot more what their goal is, where these properties are located. Like, there's a lot of work that needs to be done, in my opinion, and I don't know if, like, yeah, and I also can't speak for Claire's workload, because I feel like she would be helping me if we were working with LAFs on this too.
Lori?
Thank you. I just want to say that I also think that even if this doesn't happen today, it's something that I think that we need to look at in the coming years because it's not going to get any better. So I would like to see like maybe NDIT or the province help out with something like a facade program, right? Where it's given to commercial properties and, you know, we put in $5,000 into this and they put in $5,000. But I think there's other programs out there as well, but like I said, no matter what happens today, I don't think that we should let it go. I think that, and you know, the district could help you to work. Thanks.
Okay. So our road through would be to ask the mover and seconder to withdraw the motion. If they're willing. Is that right?
That's an option for you, or you can do a vote on the motion that's currently on the table.
Okay, let's test if the mover and seconder would consider withdrawing. It's just up to you.
Obviously, we think that this is a pretty urgent and important issue that's worth supporting in Area B. And I think I've been pretty clear. I am looking at this as a Band-Aid. This is a way to try and keep some of our local producers going. Fences cost a lot more than $10,000. Like I don't know if you guys are aware of sort of what the cost of fencing is for deer fencing, but it's substantial. So this is, you know, a small support, but it's some support. And I know what the margins are, so I know that it's a meaningful support. And I have obviously a lot of confidence in LAFS to be able to oversee this, so. Yeah, I don't think that given the growing season and the situation, some of the other solutions may come in over time, but this is something that I think we could do in the short term. And I think that if you do step back and look at it from the way I was thinking, like, this is not, you know, these for-profit farmers, it's certainly not their fault that the fires have been such that the deer have come in, that, you know, these are like things that are somewhat out of their control. And yeah, and also I really do believe it's connected to food sovereignty, certainly in Area B anyway, so I believe it as it is.
Okay, final comment to the motion as it is on the floor.
Yeah, I won't be supporting the motion on the floor. I absolutely hear the importance and the value of this work. And the Local Government Act is very clear on the prohibition to assistance to business. I recognize that by not supporting it, it means that likely for this year, we won't be able to provide the support that is necessary. And I hear the impact that has on the ground. We are also responsible for our fiduciary duty, that we are doing the important work of making sure that the programs that we do set up are legal and fair. And it's not about how much money is provided and the profit margins of farmers. Like these aren't big scale agriculture, like industrial farming complexes. They're small scale farmers that are, as you've mentioned so well, Director Burch-Jones, providing food security to folks who need it in community. And the Local Government Act doesn't differentiate between any type of business. It prohibits assistance to business, period. The province has other mechanisms that it is able to do that. We are not able to do that. We can advocate to the province to change the Local Government Act. We can work on a better system presented for next year for a shorter term solution. It's not what you want and what your community needs today, but I think it's the right step for the organization.
Okay, Chris and then Mike.
Yeah, I think I don't dispute the general cause and importance in food sovereignty and climate. Spoken often about these things are really important. I think the challenge is the Local Government Act doesn't allow us, as I understand it, to take this approach. And we just had a discussion about more regulations around short-term rentals, to address those and wanting to possibly regulate other things and it can, you know, manage other things. And if we sort of decide, well, we have this urgent thing, so we're gonna ignore the rules the province has set for us, how would we expect any of our constituents to then obey or follow our own regulations when they feel it's really urgent and immediate to them. I don't think we can. And so I think for better, for worse, and hopefully for better, we have to, if we say regulations are important and must be followed, that has to go for us too. And then we have to find a way to do these things within the regulations, even when it's challenging.
Director Richmond.
Yeah, I won't repeat all the last two directors. I support both what they said. I see the urgency of this, but I also am thinking it's July 23rd today or something like that. So even if we were to go ahead with this now, by the time the money's through and the fence is bought and built, are we really saving this growing season? You know what I mean? I don't know that we are. I feel like that if they haven't planted because of deer risk, or if their gardens are getting hit by deer, it's happening right now, and this wouldn't happen in time to save this season anyway. So with that in mind, I'd like to do this right and make sure we're supporting the farmers and food security up in the area the right way. So I'd like to wait on it and find a better path forward.
Putting up electric fences though, Mike, if that's what they did for a temporary thing, that's not a big job. You buy it, you put it up,
No, but administering money is direct, right? Like coming through the here, like by the time it gets through us to them to laughs and then laughs to them, it's still a few weeks. We're 3/4 of the way through the growing season.
well, you'd think we could speed things up if we wanted to, but anyways.
I hear you.
Fine.
Okay, I'm gonna call the question on the motion. All in favor? Anyone opposed? Okay.
Oh, sorry.
Please, yeah. Chris, Lori, Mike, Armand. You're in favor?
No.
Director Demare? And Director Stoner, Director Crompton, and myself. Opposed. Okay, the motion fails. I will consider a motion to refer this back to staff, or maybe we don't even need that. Probably don't need that. Motion to refer this. Yeah. Okay, motion to refer this back to staff, Director Stoner, second by Director Richmond. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. 9.2.5, the Village of Pemberton, a request for funding for 1 Mile Lake Boardwalk replacement. Notice that it's been closed for a while,
That's since the high water event in January.
right?
But it damaged and a good portion of it, so it's unsafe.
Yeah.
We've got a grant application in as well with disaster relief funding. Hopefully get some funding out of that. There's a number of funding sources we're trying to pull together. We've been trying to do it for a while now. I think everything else is double the cost it was a year ago, it seems, so.
And now it's all within that evacuation order zone.
That's it. Now it's in the evacuation order zone. We could get it done without interference right now, but there's a lot to it. Most of the work would have to be done in the fish window in September.
Director Matt?
That should be coming from Community Works Fund, should it not? Not Area C amenity funds.
It was the CAC funds that we had.
CAC.
Yes.
I had that down here,
You
but
wanna use
CAC funds, but not Area C amenity funds.
They're kind of the same. Area C amenity
Okay, but
funds
not the same.
covers it. We have a bunch, so I think the wording is fine, but it's only eligible or
Yeah.
we only have funding.
I would rather see it say CAC because we don't have any amenity funds.
I mean, if
As
we
in-
wanna make that amendment in
Yeah.
there, that's fine. The intention was for it to come from the CAC funds.
Community Works funds be eligible as well? Isn't that when
Well, no, they just felt that
Okay.
the CACs, we have a block of money for that. And they're so limited in what you could spend it on. You can spend it on this, so
Okay,
we'll do that.
okay. Great, moved by Director Mack, seconded by Director Demare. Any other comments, Director Demare?
Yeah, just a question. Is this funding going to be used for leverage funding? Or applying for other grants?
No, we've got an application for disaster relief from the damage done last winter. And then we put together, we have about 400 and 20,000, I think that was committed from already from one funding source to the village and our community forest, and then we have potentially gas tax or same sort of conversation, what can we draw on? We're hopeful that disaster relief will help us out.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, I'll call the question on this. All in favor? Is there anyone opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
No chance. We are leaving by 4 o'clock, no matter where we're at in our conversation, just so you know. Yeah. Even if you're mid-sentence, Jack.
I'm quiet over here.
I know, it's weird.
Almost forgot you were there.
Jack, what happened to Armand today?
Yeah.
Did he hear? There he is.
I'm strongest in the last hour, don't worry.
Anchor.
It's okay, you've got a.
Pass the baton, pass
Yeah.
Yeah.
10.1, a request for decision regarding a zoning amendment bylaw regarding the Britannia Oceanfront Comprehensive Development. Hello.
Hello, there, Dewar, General Manager of Planning Development Services. I don't have really any for presentation today. This report is just presenting amendment bylaws. The public hearing waiver was submitted by the board in May and notice was provided. There is a need for that notice to be given in relation to first reading, which is what's being recommended here. And the next step would be seeking approval from Ministry of Transportation and Transit. And noting that this map fix amendment has been requested by the developer and the community at large.
Great. Any questions? Moved by Director Donner, seconded by Director Rainbow.
Can we do the rescind?
Oh, sure, yeah.
And then we can do the other two together.
That first and second readings be rescinded, moved by Director Stoner, seconded by Director Rainbow. All in favor, any opposed, motion carries, and then that the bylaw be given first, second, and third reading, and that pursuant to section 52(3)(a) of the Transportation Act, that this be referred referred to the ministry prior to their approval to adoption of the bylaw. Moved by Director Rainbow, second by Director Stoner. Comments? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carries. That was easy. Nice work. All right. 10.2, a zoning amendment bylaw and OCP amendment bylaw for electoral area B on Edwards Road, Schlath First Nations affordable housing. Do you want to speak to this?
I know. Good afternoon, Christina Bell, planner with SLRD. So this report is regarding an application from Schlath Development Corporation for a 16-unit affordable townhouse development. The proposal would provide affordable rental housing for Schlath First Nation members and respond directly to our housing needs identified in Area B. So while in line with our broader regional growth strategy and housing needs, the project requires both an Area B zoning amendment and text amendment to the Area B official community plan. Staff are recommending first reading of both bylaw amendments and for referrals to be sent out to the appropriate agencies. So I'll first outline the details of the proposal and then speak to our consideration section, and then happy to answer any more reporting or technical details after. So as mentioned, the applicant is proposing 16 affordable rental units in townhouse form that are to be arranged in 4 clusters of ground-oriented units. So there will be a range of unit sizes from 2 to 4 bedrooms, and is proposed to accommodate that varying household needs. The site is located in close proximity to the Littleton Mountain Hotel and the Highline Pub and Restaurant there, as many of us probably know the location. It is also conveniently located along the Schlath-Seton shuttle/train route, providing that important transportation link to Lillooet. Staff note that this concept already does demonstrate an effort to align with the rural character and scale of the neighborhood context, with foreground-oriented 1 to 2 story buildings. And while conformance with form and character, development permit area requirements will be assessed through a development permit application that would also come to the board. Additionally, details around the housing provisions and what that looks like would be detailed in a housing agreement later on. I'll move to the considerations now that we can talk about kind of policy alignment. So as mentioned, the proposal is supported by our regional growth strategy and our housing needs assessment. The several parcels are designated as a settlement area, a rural community within the RGS, which describes that the objective is to encourage compact residential development in distinct villages or nodes. The proposal is also supported by goals 3 and 8 of our RGS, which are to generate a range of quality, affordable housing, and also to enhance relations with Indigenous communities and First Nations. For our housing needs assessment, it does identify a lack of rental housing stock and a lack of housing diversity within our region and as an entire region. And non-market affordable housing is identified as a gap in Area B's housing stock, more specifically. And then a key opportunity that our housing needs assessment does go into identifying is diversifying the housing stock by allowing more small-scale multi-unit housing to increase affordability and providing that opportunity for multi-generational living. Now I'll get into the actual bylaw amendments, which are page 81 and 82 of your report, or of the whole package, sorry. The subject is currently zoned as residential 1, which permits single-family dwellings, accessory dwelling units, secondary suites, and duplexes. So therefore, the new residential 2 zone would permit the townhouse form. And the definition of townhouse is to be added to the Area B zoning bylaw. For the OCT, the subject site is currently designated residential. So while that is true, and this proposal is residential in nature, the OCP policies for the residential land use designation does not include wording around multi-unit housing. So therefore, we're proposing this text amendment to policy 2.24 specifically, which would allow for multi-unit housing and townhomes where permitted through zoning. And we've used similar wording in another zoning bylaw. So beyond the land use designation, this proposal is generally in alignment with the sub-area plan as well, which calls for development that meets the future housing needs of the community without compromising the rural character. For development permit areas, the site is subject to 2, our wildfire protection, and as I mentioned, the intensive form and character. And due to the size of the proposal, the form and character DPA would come to the board. So in closing, I would just like to highlight the truth and reconciliation section of our report. This project does align with SLRD's Truth and Reconciliation Guide by supporting a community-driven initiative that responds directly to Shellaf First Nation priorities, advances meaningful collaboration, and strengthens government-to-government relationships. It also reflects the guide's emphasis on meaningful engagement and supporting Indigenous-led approaches to housing and community development, which is consistent with UNDRIP principles related to self-determination. So I'll leave it at that, but if there's more detailed questions, happy to answer them.
Thank you. Questions? Not seeing any questions. Okay.
Recommendations?
Second.
We probably need to move them separately. Is it the bylaw?
The 2 bylaws separately.
Okay. So that bylaw number 1971-2026, which is the Area B zoning bylaw. The amendment bylaw be given first reading, moved by Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Mayor. Comments, all in favor, any opposed, motion carries. And that the bylaw 1972, and OCP bylaw 1890-2025 amendment bylaw be given first reading, moved by Director Birch Jones, seconded by Director Herford. comments? All in favor, any opposed, motion carries. And that the two bylaws just amended, just given first readings, are both, sent for their respective referrals. Moved by Director Burch Jones, seconded by Director Stoner. Comments? All in favor, any opposed, motion carries. Lots of work to do.
Well done, Dave. I really like it that you
It's just-
stat me on that flag. You see that? Thank you.
Thank you. Yay. Lisa, Allison. Hello. Good afternoon. Okay, we're on 10.3 regarding our request for decision for select funds delegation of authority bylaw amendment, and I will turn that over to Ms. Pleasant.
Thank you. Hello, my name is Allison Twiss. I'm Senior Policy Analyst at the Squamish-Lillooet Regional District. The purpose of this report is to seek 3 readings and adoption of the SLRD Select Funds Delegation of Authority Bylaw, number 1274-213, Amendment Bylaw number 1973-2026, which reflect proposed amendments to be in alignment with recent board resolutions, including the implementation of the external grants policy. Recent board resolutions directed staff to bring forward this review and required amendments to the SLRD Select Funds Delegation of Authority bylaw to ensure its alignment with the new external grants policy, as well as to provide an increase to the appreciation fund amount from $500 to $1,000. Proposed amendments also include a recommendation to update the contract signing authority clause to align with current day practice. This report summarizes background information on relevant resolutions and proposed bylaw amendments for board consideration, and it further recommends the following resolutions. That bylaw number 1973-2026, cited as Squamish-Lillooet Regional District Select Funds Delegation of Authority bylaw number 1274-2013, amendment bylaw number 1973-2026 be read a first, second, and third time. And that bylaw number 1973-2026, cited as Squamish-Lillooet Regional District Select Funds Delegation of Authority bylaw number 1274-2013, amendment bylaw number 1973-2026 be adopted. If the amendment bylaw is adopted as recommended, next steps would include staff implementation activities to support the rollout of the external grants policy, including a communications plan, updates to application and reporting materials to the SLRD website, engagement with community groups, and establishment of administrative procedures required to support the new grants process. In addition, if the officer designation of delegation of authority bylaw requires any changes to be in alignment with the external grants policy, proposed amendments will also be brought forward to a future board meeting. Staff are here for any questions.
Thank you. Questions, Director Burch Jones?
I completely disagree with this Select Funds Delegation of Authority bylaw amendments. And I was also not in agreement with the external grant fund policy that went through last month. And I saw, because watching that meeting, my alternate attended, and I saw there was a lot of concern and objection about the external grant policy from the electoral area directors. And 3 of the 4 anyway voted against it, but the board passed it. The municipal directors passed that external grant, and this follows from that. I think I'm worried that the voice of the electoral area directors is not being heard at the table. And this should have gone absolutely to the EAD first for some discussion. And there are so many details that we haven't seen at all, and just based on the external grant, we haven't seen the online form. We don't know if it always needs to be, if other ways of delegating funds will be acceptable or not. We don't know what guidelines We don't know what reporting requirements, like there's a huge amount of information. We would be making this decision quite blindly. We don't know any of the nuts and bolts. So I'd like to figure out what those are. I mean, I think there's some possibilities to improve the process in here. I mean, I think we should have an online application process, for example. But I think partly because this is a huge part of the role of the electoral area directors here around, I mean, everyone understands select funds come from PILT funds, right? Everybody gets that at the table? Well, we have an agreement with the Northern Statlium that if we're making changes in the PILT policy and administration, we're having a conversation with them. So we started talking about it at the spring meeting, and then we have a fall meeting with PILT on the agenda as a topic of discussion. So I feel like trying to rush this through first, second, third, and approve, like, why are we doing this now in between those scheduled conversations? And without, I mean, I certainly don't have the information that I would need to support this. And my worry is that, you know, the discretion over discretionary funds is being moved from electoral area directors to staff. That's what I see here, so I have quite a few concerns.
In your absence, your alternate had the authority to vote and participate in the discussion. The board had the authority to pass that policy.
Indeed.
And it did not. There was no grounds under which that policy could be referred to the EAD for preliminary. That, like, there's certain things that go to the EAD and certain things that don't go to the EAD. And a board policy doesn't go to the EAD.
But the massive impact on comes to the EAD on select funds here, like, that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
So I think it would be respectful to somehow have the voice of the electoral area directors heard. And a way to do that is by having it discussed at the EAD, and then the EAD can make some coherent recommendations to the board. Otherwise, we get what happened last month, which is just some objections. But of course, the municipal directors hold the vote. But it would be, I think we could get better information if we had a better chance to work this through and answer some of those questions, like some of the ones I just mentioned, so that we knew how it was supposed to work. Because I sort of see the worst here in how this will roll out.
Okay, I have very full speakers list. I have Director Stoner, Director Mack, Director Rainbow, Director Demare, and I'm sure I've got people on the side of the table as well.
Thank you through the chair. I'm cognizant of not wanting to totally rehash last month's meeting. If you want to, like, it was a fulsome multi-hour discussion at committee of the whole. So I think in terms of due respect for voices being heard, I think it's a more fulsome conversation actually when it happens at committee of the whole with everybody's perspective. And if there are board members who don't feel like that is a functional place to hold conversation and raise questions, then that's a different issue. I think with what is presented here today, it is following through on direction that was provided by the board last month. And I heard this concern last month as well in terms of it taking decision-making authority or power away from EA directors, and that I don't see that same, I don't read it the same way. I actually think it further empowers electoral area directors by increasing delegated authority for the appreciation fund and streamlining the process. So it doesn't have to come to the board every time it needs, or to the EA, or every time it needs a decision, that it can be made by the EA director and the CAO, and then just provided as information on the upcoming report. So I actually think it really streamlines the process, and so I think that as presented here, what we're discussing today, the amendments to this bylaw make sense.
Thank you. Director Matt.
Yeah, as far as streamlining the process, I disagree with that. So all we're doing is we're increasing, the fund from 500 to 1,000 discretionary fund for that doesn't need full board approval or anything else. That's a minor token. It's just, and it also doesn't say the EAD director, it says the CAO consulting with the EAD director. So you had it backwards. I don't want it, if somebody applies for Area C amenity funds, select funds, whatever. The area director should be the one that makes the decision to take it forward, to say, yes, I agree with that. It goes to the EAD committee and we discuss it, we move it forward, and then it comes through the board to be ratified, so to speak. But like in the last meeting, I voted with the majority, and in hindsight, that was a mistake.
But we can't read.
No, I know, but I'm just saying to you, I should have voted against that going forward. It would have still gone forward, but the fact is, the more I looked at it, I can say hindsight's a wonderful thing. But this, I agree exactly with what Vivian's saying. You may not think it's diminishing the role of the EAD directors, but it most certainly is. So I'll just leave it at that.
I do have a speakers list. I'm going to Director Rainbow, then Director Demare, Director Crompton, Director Richmond.
Now, I may have missed something when I was away for the 4 months. Well, I did miss something, maybe I missed
We
something.
did a few things while you were gone. Yeah.
Thank you, of course you did.
In good faith.
You're reaping the benefits.
It was like comments from me too.
Okay, let me think how I'm gonna say. I'm gonna back up and start in a different way. First of all, as far as the policy is concerned and the work the staff put into it, I don't want to question that process. The staff were tasked with something to do and they did it and did it competently. It's the whole process of how we got to this point that bothers me.
Yeah.
What during that time I was away, did this go to the policy committee? Was it developed there and then came to the board? Was there any opportunity for electoral area directors to have some input before the policy is written? It's one thing to have a policy stuck in front of you and approve it or not approve it, and you make a couple of little tweaks maybe. But when you're upset with the whole damn thing, you haven't got much choice. You know, it goes to the vote, you lose the vote, and that's done. And you know, what was the problem? And I think it can be identified. I would agree. You know, when I first started 12 years ago, I had some questions about how do I manage select funds, and staff at that time weren't able to answer those questions. So I found my own answers, which happened to be different from the other electoral area directors. And yeah, is that a problem within the organization? Yes, it is. Do we need some sort of standardized approach for dealing with select funds? Yes, we do. Sure. So I have no quarrel with that. But it seems to me this could have been done quicker, easier. You know, if you have a standard form with all the information that finance requires, the name of the organization, the name of the contact person, the phone number, the email, the mailing address for the check, when the funds are needed, when the project's going to be completed, when we need a report back, all of that could be in a form. And that would provide the kind of standardization that the organization should have throughout the region. It would, seems to me, would make things easier for staff, which is one of the things that this attempts to do or does do. But what I don't think this does, you know, if I ask the question, how does this benefit the residents of the rural areas? And I don't think it does. And that's a test that we should apply to anything that we do, any of our bylaws. We should be looking at how does this improve services to the residents of regional rural areas? How does the staff thing is important as well? You know, how can we have staff working more efficiently? Fair enough. So we needed something, but then I want to echo some of the concerns I have. I think I read it differently than my colleagues. That the $1,000 discretionary fund still exists.
Increased from 500 to 1,000.
Well, we increased it from 500 to 1,000, but yeah, okay. But that still exists, and there's a requirement that that be reported to the board. No problem. Then the other 1,000, it's not $1,000. It's any grant application that is under $1,000 that can now be approved by the CAO. And it says sort of with consultation to the appropriate electoral director. So that's fine. But my question is, you know, so how does that get to the CAO? How does somebody make an application for a $50 grant for a wreath?
We have two amazing staff at our table.
Yeah.
Amazing staff at our table.
Okay, so make a note of that one, because there's a couple of other
Do you want to
questions
let
that
them
go with
answer
it.
it?
Pardon?
Do you want to let them answer the question? Because it may.
Okay, do it one at a time. So how does somebody make an application for a grant of less than $1,000? Where does it go?
There would be two options. One would be through the appreciation fund, which would be managed by the EA directors, the same way that the appreciation funds are managed. And the second would be through the online grant application portal. So obviously, you know, when the typical appreciation fund expenditures that you're making, those are still managed the same way they've been. It doesn't have to go through our new grant policy, but any other grant request would come through the grant policy, and anything under 1,000 would be flagged for CAO approval prior to our.
Okay, so somebody applies.
I just want to intervene here, just because the appreciation fund, so we're talking about it going from 500 to 1,000, right?
Yep.
That was originally intended to be like, if I buy a bouquet of flowers to attend a funeral or something, like it was like expenses that the EAD director incurred as part of their job, and then they would claim reimbursement. That was the original appreciation fund idea. And we also have discretion over it to give it to show appreciation. And so that's all that is. That's not meant to be like a way that we fund groups in our communities. It was a sort of little special, like, right, Angela? If we look back in the history of that, because I was confused. I asked a lot of questions about that originally. What was that for? So that is just that little bit of that. And if you don't spend it in that year, it's gone, and you start over with your 500 or now 1,000 in the next year, right? So that's just one small thing. Increasing that to 1,000, great. But I think that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about select funds, right?
Yeah, well, that comes from select funds,
It does.
$1,000.
And select funds come from payment in lieu of taxes.
So my question was nothing to do with the discretionary amount. It was to do with these grants of under $1,000. So it comes into the through the whatever portal we set up. So now, and I'm trying to look at this in terms of positions, CAO director. You don't need to put a particular name to it. But the CAO gets a request for $500 for something or other. Can the CAO at that point say, oh no, I don't like that. No, we shouldn't be doing that. And that's the end of it?
I think it's helpful if you let staff answer when you have these questions, because it may inform your next question.
Through the chair,
Thank you.
if application was submitted and it was not approved by the CAO, it would still be on an agenda. The route for approval of the CAO is just approve those common expenditures or the the wreaths for the Remembrance Day ceremonies, where we don't need to fill up an agenda with common requests we get year over year for a few $100s. If a request came in where the CAO wasn't comfortable approving it, it would still be on an open agenda for regular review like all other select funds. That $1,000 mechanism of approval for the CAO is just a way to kind of streamline some of those smaller amounts that really don't need to be debated at a table, because the CAO is comfortable that it would be approved and it is in line with our regular grant funds.
So it's select funds and it would come to the EAD committee then?
If it was not approved by the CAO,
If it was
it
not
would
approved.
come on a regular agenda.
Okay.
If it was approved, it would just come on for information purposes at a later meeting to say that those were approved by the CAO.
So the question that follows on from that is, what if the CAO can't get hold of the EAD director and just decides, yeah, I'll approve that? Without reference, it doesn't seem to me to say that the EAD must be consulted or must approve.
The intention is that the CAO will be reaching out to the EA directors. One of the reasons we have this fast track is because we are moving to a quarterly intake for grant applications. So this would allow for small amounts to be provided on a timely basis, regardless of whether our application window or where we are in that process, because we do realize that some of those small groups don't have as great forecasting for expenditures, and Remembrance Day wreaths come up last minute, and this is a way for the CA to approve that and get those funds out the door a lot faster than we would through the grant policy. So it is a channel to improve efficiency there. And maybe the CAO can speak to the communication piece with the EA directors on that.
I can, and just really reinforcing what's been written in the original policy and report and this report, which is that it is in consultation with the EAD directors. And if the both CAO and EAD go, I don't know about this one, let's bring it to the EAD, that's what we'll do. But it's a phone call to say, hey, do you support the Remembrance Day wreath? I really do. If I can't reach an EAD director, I think that's an overall general thing. I don't think I have trouble reaching EAD directors at this point.
This is getting totally just bogged down. This isn't making things simpler. This is making things just more difficult.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
We had
It is.
reports taking time on our agenda to talk about a $350 expenditure, and we spend as much time on that as we do on major bylaw amendments. Like it's.
But we don't. When stuff comes to the EAD and it gets approved by the EAD committee and it's passed off to the board, it's just a rubber stamp, so to speak, for a lot of that stuff for its select funds. Because the EAD director recommends to the EAD committee that I want this money to go forward. And it goes forward. It comes here and it's laid out what we're doing. But as Mike says, how many times has the board ever turned one of those requests down? Slim and none since the time I've been here. So I don't see why we're changing all this stuff. I mean, who came up with this idea? The EAD committee certainly didn't. Just baffles me.
We don't know what the guidelines or the.
We have a speaker list. Well, I got interrupted.
Yes, you've been
Sorry.
interrupted many times. Please carry on.
I mentioned, I think that this doesn't improve service to the electoral areas. Staff just said we're moving towards a 3-month intake. Really? Are we? Why? Who does that benefit? Yeah, and what I heard in the discussion was, well, in such and such municipality, we only do it once a year, or we don't even deal with it. We farm it out to some other organization to deal with. And you can do things like that in a municipality. Each one of our municipalities is much smaller in area than one of the electoral areas. If you look at an electoral area, I'll just use area D because that's the one I'm most familiar with. I have 8 small communities. There's no one way of communicating with all of those people. Whereas in Squamish, there is one way. And you could say that the Squamish chief would be just as efficient within a rural area. It may be, it may not be. The other thing you have in a municipality, and fairly close to where people live, is a municipal hall. People can go down there, they can walk in, they can see somebody, they can sit, they can stand and talk to someone and get a question answered. That's not true for a rural area. You know, most of the people down in the south, they're what, 100 kilometers away from here. And I think that you start reducing it to every 3 months, with the goal being eventually it's going to be once a year. No, I think that's wrong. I'm totally opposed to that. And I think that is for the benefit of staff more than it is for the benefit of people.
Okay, can I go on in our?
Please do, because I go on for another half hour if you let me.
You're next.
Yeah, quite a conversation, and I'm opposed to I won't be voting for this. And I just don't like that whole idea of under $1,000. The appreciation fund, there's no issues with it, but the under $1,000, to give it to two people to say yes or no. We don't know who the CAO is going to be down the road, or the electoral area director for a certain area, but they might not like somebody and both say, no, we don't want it. Where does it say anything in that document that it will go to the EAD meeting, the following EAD meeting? Somewhere there's got to be a must. There's no must in there. There's a may. There has to be a must.
Okay, so.
I'm not finished yet. And yeah, this is being railroaded along with the one previously last month. And it's not to be railroaded like this without any real consultation other than at these meetings. Like, it just, for policies to be popping up, trying to get them done before the next financial cycle, I don't think is correct to do. Sorry, but I won't be voting for it.
Crompton.
This has been a thoroughly vetted policy. We had it at the committee of the whole, and to Director Stoner's point, that is the place where all of us sit together and make decisions together. And I think that is the committee of this organization that gets the fullest review of anything that we consider, and it's the right place for policies of this level of seriousness. So for me, I've felt like we've gone down all the boxes and ticked the boxes. I think it's a very good and robust policy, and I think it's one that we can improve over time. These are large sums of money, often, to which each of us owes a duty of care to the electorate. I owe a duty of care to the electorate, and I have felt uncomfortable seeing tens of thousands of dollars sort of move through the organization without my participation. I commit to the people who live in Britannia Beach and in Gun Lake that I will fulfill the task that they've given me, and it is to sit with all of you at this table and make good decisions for all of them. And so I think this policy gives us a better way of fulfilling that task. And I understand your concerns. I hope I can communicate mine. I want to do a good job at this table, and I want to be fully attuned to the seriousness of the decisions we make. And again, it's a lot. So I just finished by saying we're almost done working together in this format, and I really enjoyed it. Like, I think you're all good at your jobs, and I'm a little bit sad to hear that people feel disenfranchised, because I listen very carefully to what you say and I take it seriously, and I think you take me seriously. And that's been encouraging to me over time. But I think our staff have done a good job here, and I think if the majority votes in favor of this, this board has spoken on it. And I don't think anybody's been disenfranchised. I only get one vote. And so I'll be using that one vote to vote in favor of this policy.
Okay, Director Richmond, you're next.
Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit because we're now debating something that we spent 2.5 hours on at a previous meeting, and everybody had ample time to speak to. The whole goal of that conversation was to streamline this so that staff didn't spend an inordinate amount of time dealing with these requests, and that we were responsibly managing the public's funds. EAD directors have funds that are different than municipalities, as we know. The idea isn't that those funds lay in one person's hands for all the reasons Director DeMare just said. You don't know who's gonna be sitting there, they might not like somebody, so it has to go through a vetting process, because it's public money and that's all of our responsibility, not just the four of you.
No argument.
That's all, I'm speaking now. That's all of our responsibility.
And you never.
When we went through that, pardon me?
You never interrupt me?
When we went through this policy a month ago, it was quite thorough, and again, for me, it was about streamlining and about protecting the public's money. We used examples of PDIF, and I thought that's why Director Mack voted in favor, because we've seen through PDIF funds that it is a responsible way and an efficient way of handling the funds on behalf of the public. We went through all that. In that discussion, we came up with the quarterly thing. There was never an intention to then move it to a year, Director Rainbow. It was quarterly was what was discussed. During that discussion, electoral area directors were concerned that with this process, it would take too long for small requests to get processed. So groups within your communities that are looking for money and you'd like a quicker turnaround, you don't want it to go through EAD and then a month later through the board. And that's what this was for. This was to streamline for you. If the EADs don't want this, I don't have to support this in any way. This was meant to streamline the process for small requests for your groups so that when they come in, you're able to get that money out the door because it's something that's been acknowledged as a need previously, continues to be, outside of going through the whole formal process. So I'm not sure what all the defensiveness about this. I'm hearing that there might need to be discussions because it's built ahead and therefore there's a relational aspect. I hadn't considered that. That's very interesting to hear. Other than that, for me, this is about streamlining it for you so that your funds the funds that you are responsible for, you're able to get them out the door to the groups that are benefiting your community faster, and you don't have to wait 2 months for a $500 request. That's what this is all about. If the EADs don't want this, we can put it away and they can go through what was approved last month and just keep going on with the status quo. But I just like to put out there that that's what the intent of this. I'm not sure what all the anger is. That's what the intent of this part of the policy was to streamline it for the EADs. If you guys don't like it, I don't need to swear, I'm okay with it. Last month was decided, we've had that discussion.
Okay, so to the rest of my speakers list, which is Director Herford, Director Hopful, Director Stoner, Director Pettengill, I'd ask you please to write down your comments so that you remember them tomorrow. I am calling a recess because it's 4 o'clock and we will resume this tomorrow after committee of the whole is complete. Thank you all. Have a good night.